Hi, today I will name 14 most common causes of depression. Please know that I'm not representing any medical office, I'm not endorsing any products, and I'm not related to any psychology associations. But the need for this topic is obvious. There are a lot of people struggling with this condition, including some people I dearly love who are going through this now or have gone through this in the past. And if you're on meds or if you're in therapy right now, it's between you and your therapist. Today I'm just naming 14 causes, and I believe it will help a lot of people. I personally lived through most of those causes. That's why I'm going to give like a very small tip for each. But in my next video, I will name 14 things that can prevent and possibly even heal the depression. Cause number 1, inherited predisposition or predisposition of a certain personality type. More and more studies reveal that depression can run in the family, and we can possibly inherit it from generation before us or even 2 generations before us, like from our grandparents. Also, very creative people like writers or musicians are very prone to depression. The names like Ernest Hemingway or Beethoven or Tchaikovsky come to mind when we think about depression. Very ambitious high achievers like successful athletes or even successful business people are struggling with this condition as well. If this is you, please keep creating and please keep setting tangible goals. Even if you feel like giving up, use your talent for at least 30 minutes to an hour a day. You'll be surprised how much difference it will make for you and possibly for other people. Common cause of depression number 2, unhealthy lifestyle and bad habits. It can go anywhere from addictions to poor diet or lack of exercise. Many people are escaping from depression to addictions and to overindulging, and it seems like it's helping for a while, but then it will make that condition worse over time. And when we say addiction, we commonly think about drugs and alcohol because those are the most common ones. But nowadays, a lot of people are escaping to hours of gaming or overindulging, overbuying, and it provides just temporary relief, but then eventually it will make the condition worse. And even excessive dieting can cause depression because it's another extreme. The best thing we can do is to gradually change that habit by taking one day at a time. A good accountability partner or a support group can make a big difference, so we don't have to fight this battle alone. Common cause of depression number 3, hormonal changes and imbalances in our bodies. It's very common for women after delivering the baby. You probably heard of postpartum depression. You've also heard that preteens and teenagers are in depressive mood because of the major changes happening in their growing bodies. A lot of girls and women experience depressive moods during certain times of the month. You probably heard of PMS, but please don't say it in front of other people at school or at work. And surprisingly, a lot of women experience depression even during pregnancy, but they're just not comfortable talking about it. If you're the one who's experiencing it right now, please don't hold it in and ask for help. We can start as simple as changing our diet and exercise, and I would say going on walk is the easiest exercise we can squeeze in to our day. Number 4, sickness or injury. Injury or sickness where the person is forced to be isolated, lost the mobility, and has to take the medications. And some of the painkillers have depression as a side effect, so it's not a secret for anyone. And also being cut from the society and being in pain all the time can be devastating for anyone. And I really admire those people who have strength in this condition to push forward, to love others, and even some of them find space for humor. So it's really amazing. But if those meds cause depression and suicidal thoughts, they have to be stopped and replaced immediately, whether it's for you or for your loved ones. It can easily cause depression if this is your loved ones who is sick or injured right now. And it is easier said than done not to worry about it. So the best thing we can do is to either stay present or at least keep in touch with that person over the phone daily. So it can make a huge difference for that person. Common cause of depression number 5, betrayal. Betrayal can happen between close friends or between close relatives. I know that some people view their divorce or breakup as a betrayal. It can be professional betrayal from a business partner or from a coworker. You probably heard the term backstabbing, which is not uncommon in high school or in the workforce. Overcoming betrayal can be extremely difficult and it can potentially affect our lives for years. But eventually we would have to realize that no one is perfect except for God. And most people will let us down more than once in our lives. And if you read the book of Psalms, you will find out that King David experienced a lot of betrayal from his friends and even from his fellow believers. And a lot of his Psalms actually describe depression. And actually reading the book of Psalms either at the beginning or at the end of your day can be great therapy. Common cause of depression number 6, loss of the loved ones. So the physical death of someone we love is easy to understand and the grieving process might take some time. But there are some situations where a family member just leaves and cuts off all the communication. As a teacher, I've seen how painful it can be for children when a parent just disappears from their lives. Or on the flip side, it can be a grown child who leaves home and just cuts off all the communication from a parent, which can be very painful. Unfortunately, isolation and loss of communication can happen between siblings who stop communicating as adults because of some past hurts or because of some grudges. And I've seen it in many families and in multiple cultures. One thing I can say is to never give up on outreaching or on searching for that person. And the parent's prayer is the most powerful prayer out there, even if the adult child cuts off all the communication. And as I said in one of my other shorts, asking for forgiveness is never too late. Common cause of depression number 7, loneliness. Loneliness used to be very common just for middle-aged and for older people because of the divorce or because of the death of a spouse. But now it's a new phenomenon for younger people, maybe because of the pandemic or because of the big hype on individualism. And as a teacher, I observed that a lot of school kids experience loneliness at school. They feel either ignored or excluded, and it usually hits them in the late elementary or in the middle school. And that's why I wrote this booklet for preteens who struggle with this issue, and it's available on Amazon. And I've noticed that despite the statistics, the singleness is still glorified in mainstream media for some reason. It seems like those experts have no idea how much it hurts even young people. If this is you and if you're an introvert, you would have to force yourself out of the house to go and meet other people at least once in a while. So I got this advice from a professional therapist and I know it works. Common cause of depression number 8, abuse. This one is obvious and it comes in different forms. So it can be physical, emotional, verbal, sexual, or even spiritual abuse. It is commonly observed in marriage. It can also happen in parent-child relationship, and it can either come from a parent or from a grown child. It can also happen between siblings. It can come from a caregiver, from a close friend, or from even a coworker. The easiest advice we can give to a person who is experiencing abuse is to just get out, because we know that it can harm that person's mental and even physical health. But unfortunately, it is easier said than done for many people. It takes a lot of courage to cut that abusive person off or to get out of that toxic situation. If this is you right now, please do not stay in the vacuum, seek some support and share with some trusted friends, even if you have to do it secretly. And know that God loves you. Common cause of depression number 9, failure. Failure can be personal or professional. Some parents feel like they failed at parenting when their kids choose some destructive behaviors, but it's not always parents' fault. And on the flip side, kids sometimes feel like they failed their parents when they don't meet their expectation, which is not always true. And unfortunately, many kids, as well as their parents, look at the bad grades as total failure. That's why I have a booklet, and it's available on the Amazon on this particular topic. Please check it out. The artists and athletes often feel like they failed if they didn't perform well. Or it can be a small business that doesn't take off. Like an example is my nonprofit. I get hundreds of grant rejections by now. Or we can't meet the expectations of our boss, so we either get fired or transferred. And then prolonged unemployment with tons of rejected applications can also cause depression. Cause of depression number 10, social and economic issues. The name Great Depression was there for a reason in that historical period. And there are a lot of blogs and videos where people are just venting about bad economy. But I grew up on the other side of the world, so I saw some really bad economy. However, if the person honestly goes to work, works full time, and it's still not enough to cover just the basic bills, something is not right about it. But I think the most depressing thing of our time is when we value a human being as either a data unit or some net worth entity. As a result, people are often forced to fetch for themselves in most vulnerable situations, like sickness or lack of resources. I also know that the discrimination can lead to depression easily, and it is prohibited by the federal law, but it's still common in many countries, including the United States. So I live in Texas, which is becoming increasingly diverse, but I've experienced discrimination more than once, and it does hurt. Common cause of depression number 11, bullying. There are many discussions on this topic, and we also know it is prohibited by the federal law. Does it mean the issue is solved? Not really. I can testify it as a teacher. It is still pretty common in schools and in the workforce. Bullying is kind of similar to abuse, where it comes in different forms. From what I hear, verbal bullying is very common in middle schools with repetitive names calling. And it seems like the most common type of bullying nowadays in schools and in workforce is either excluding or ignoring, where the person is just feeling isolated. So if this is you right now, please know that there will be at least one person in that place who will treat you with respect. So also find someone to talk to about this issue after school or after work, so you wouldn't be by yourself. And please remember that God loves you. The common cause of depression number 12, boredom. You've probably heard the expression stuck in the rut, and it depends on the personality type. Whereas some people find contentment is in small things, and this is fine, while others get depressed with some boring, repetitive routines, either at work or at home. And it's hard to believe how nowadays anybody can get bored with a lot of entertainment online or live, educational apps that are very interactive, or like with flexible job opportunities. But many people still complain about being bored and depressed. From what I see, the boredom is usually caused either by social isolation, or the tasks at work or at school become repetitive and not challenging anymore. That's why they become boring. And what I've learned from someone else, it is never too late to learn something new, whether it's a new task, a new hobby, or a new college class. Common cause of depression number 13. Lack of purpose. This often hits both men and women during their middle ages. That's why they call it a middle age crisis. We'll look back and say, okay, my kids are grown, now what? But then we see that an attractive, young, healthy, successful person, a nice car, nice job, nice house, and sometimes even perfectly matched partner. So it's like a picture perfect life, right? And then we find out that that person is depressed to the point of suicidal thoughts. So our first reaction is to judge, like, what are you talking about? It's ridiculous. But when we get to know that person, we realize that there is a lack of purpose. Okay, I achieved just about anything I set my goals for, and now what? And the lack of purpose is often related to either a mismatched or unfulfilling career. It's when the person is working because it pays well, but it's not really something that he or she wants to do. Which brings us to the last part, which is another common cause of depression. Number 14, internal conflict. As again, internal conflict can be a result of unfulfilling career, but it's not always the case. Internal conflict is well described in great classics, like in John Tolkien or Fyodor Dostoevsky novels. For example, think of a character of Gollum, who struggles between his good and bad self. And that character represents most of us as human beings. And in Fyodor Dostoevsky's novel, the character is usually depressed because of the internal conflict between thoughts and actions. If I had to explain it to a child, that character is really feeling bad after doing something wrong. Now, this is a Christian channel and I'm not forcing my beliefs on anyone. However, the science of psychology didn't exist until the 19th century. So where did people go with their mental health issues? I think it was usually a religious leader, right? So, and even now, if you go to a very good, honest religious leader, he will tell you straight that the internal conflict is often caused by the ongoing and unrepented sin, which will eventually lead to the depression. As again, in my next video, I will name 14 things that can prevent and even heal depression. Thank you for watching this video, especially if you watched it to the very end. Please share it with your family, with your friends, and with any person who needs it. And please subscribe and write me a comment on what you think.